Bluesky is allowing people to scrape your data with AI. IVPN bought Safing, makers of Portmaster. The FBI now likes end-to-end encryption because Chinese hackers were stealing your messages, and much more. Welcome to Surveillance Report 205, where we are dedicated to keeping you private and secure with the latest news from the past 2 weeks. I am Nathan from The New Oil.
And I'm Henry from Techlore.
And this week, a reminder that our sponsor is Easy Opt-Outs. Easy Opt-Outs is an automated data removal service. They are one of the more effective ones out there. As you guys may remember, earlier this year, we covered some research from Consumer Reports. They were the second best option after manual removal. So it was manual removal. Technically, Optory did like 2% better, but they're also literally 10 times as much. Easy Opt-Outs is much more affordable. They're only $20 a year. They do not share your data with other employees or contractors. It's just the two founders who we have personally met and we have kept in touch with throughout this campaign. They don't have any analytics. They don't have any ads. They only remove your data on a website if they found it. If they don't find your data, they don't do a removal request. They ask for as little information as possible. Cancellation is easy. They do offer refunds if you're not satisfied. They do have business plans if you are a business owner looking to offer something to your employees. And I can personally attest that they have really good customer service. Every time I've contacted them, and I always get a response within a day or two, and they're very quick to be like, how can we resolve this problem? How can we, I don't want to say like live up to your expectations or standards, but they clearly want to make sure that they're offering you a good, solid product. So we are extremely grateful to them for sponsoring this podcast, keeping us going. And if you guys live in the US, this is a US only thing, and you're still looking for a solution to help you with your data removal, we're definitely fans of Defense in Depth if you want to check for it manually. But this is a good way to get a lot of the low-hanging fruit, a lot of the easy stuff, and save yourself a lot of time, because I can personally attest, when I used to do this stuff manually, it took literally a whole day to do one person to go through Michael Basil's workbook. So if you want to do it that way, that's fine, but this is also a huge time saver, and then you can just go through and see the little niche things that there's no way anybody but you could have possibly noticed anyways. So definitely check them out, and thank you again to them for supporting us. So with that, we're going to talk about Bluesky. It's, the big topic right now. I'm not sure why now is the moment that everybody decided that they were tired of X, but for some reason everybody's decided, not everybody obviously, but a lot of people have decided that they no longer want to be on X and they've gone over to Bluesky, or so I keep hearing. I'll go ahead and be a little cynical right off the bat. I remember when everybody left for Mastodon, and then a month later they were back on Twitter. So I kind of wonder if this is the same thing. If everybody's going to go over to Bluesky and a month later they're going to be back on Twitter. Maybe they're already back on Twitter. But apparently right now Bluesky is having its 15 minutes of fame. A lot of people are saying that it really seems like this one might stick. And Bluesky made a pledge that they will never use your post or your data for training AI. But they don't have to, because somebody else will, and they're totally cool with it. This headline says someone made a data set of 1 million Bluesky posts for machine learning research. This contains posts collected from Bluesky Social's Firehose API, and it is intended for machine learning research and experimentation with social media data. And this is according to the actual description of the dataset itself. Each post contains context, metadata, and information about attachments and reply relationships. The data is not anonymous. In the dataset, each post is listed alongside the user's decentralized identifier, or DID, which is a very unique handle regardless of what server you're on. It's almost like a social security number. 404 points out that it is noteworthy that it's a snapshot of time on Bluesky, meaning that it could and probably does include since deleted posts. The dataset is already popular as of writing. It's one of the top trending Hugging Face projects. So apparently this is a source where people can make datasets to train AI and publicly share them, and that's where this is coming from. The Firehose API that it references in the dataset description is part of what makes Bluesky unique among other social media platforms. It's an aggregated chronological stream of all the public data updates as they happen in the network, including posts, likes, follows, handle changes, and more, according to Bluesky. It's public, and the platform is built on the OpenAT protocol, so anything that runs through the Firehose, which again is everything that happens on Bluesky, is technically available for independent developers. Since this is all public, there's nothing stopping anyone from making datasets out of Bluesky user data to train AI models, but Bluesky as a platform has promised it won't use that content to train generative AI itself. Just as a quick follow-up, there's a second article that came out later this week from 404 that says there's actually several data sets like this now. If you're a Bluesky user, your posts are almost certainly caught up in this. There's a few things worth mentioning here that I took away from the story. First of all, I already made the jab at how Bluesky, they're totally cool with letting people use their data. They did reply to this when 404, somebody contacted them, was like, hey, do you know about this? And they're like, well, it's not breaking the terms of service. Like, we can't control what people do with the data once they download it. They didn't do anything wrong. So they know about this and they're totally cool with it. The other thing is they mentioned that these data sets probably include posts that have been deleted. So that's a friendly reminder that, anything you put on the internet, just assume it's out there, even if it's only up there for a second. Unfortunately, this goes back to all right, this is me being a hipster and being salty, but I don't understand why Bluesky had to reinvent the Federation wheel. And for some reason, everyone says it's better. The only thing I've heard people say, actual users, the only thing I've heard them say that is better is that you can import lists. So you can import moderation lists, you can import follow lists, and it gets you up and running really fast. To be fair, you could do the same thing with Mastodon. I don't know why nobody hasn't, but you could create block lists. There are block lists actually for server admins. I've used a couple of them for different servers that I've spun up that just block various instances that are generous with CSAM or hate speech, actual hate speech for all the free speech people out there, things that everyone would object to are not cool. I don't know. I don't understand what is drawing people to these platforms. But yeah, I guess just my main takeaway here, now that I'm done being a hipster, is just remember it's public. It's social media. It's, it's still got all of the same problems that any social media platform would have. And that's not me taking a ding at Bluesky. That's just me saying, even Mastodon, all the information for the most part is public, can be scraped in one way or another. So you still got to be careful with it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a big issue. And we had a debate on the Techlore forum about this because people were saying we should add the robots.txt file to our website to pretty much say, hey, don't scrape our website, please. And it's literally, that's what it is. It's, hey, please do not scrape our website. And that's about all it does. People can choose to not respect that. Legally questionable, of course. I think if we wanted to treat that seriously and we found out that somebody was scraping our website, then, theoretically we could have legal recourse in that situation. But my point is, this is just a common issue nowadays where even YouTubers, this ends up on YouTube. It's been pretty well established that YouTube videos were used for AI training as well, and no people consented to that as well. So it's just an issue that we need to figure out, I think, as an internet society nowadays, which is how do you retain any kind of ownership of the things you create? How do you prevent other people from scraping that data? And how do you do it with privacy? Because I think that there's two layers of this, which is the whole ethical consideration of who owns what nowadays, but also there's the additional privacy complexity to it, which is these Bluesky individuals, their usernames are also caught in this data set as well. So they didn't even try to claim it was, in air quotes, anonymized data. It's very clearly not even attempted to be anonymized. And if it was anonymized, we would still say that it probably wasn't properly anonymized. If somebody said, oh, here's my name and here's why I'm upset about this storm happening outside my place, that data is not anonymized properly. Those are my thoughts. Sadly, I don't have solutions. I just think it's a really tricky situation and I don't really know how to deal with it. And now we have the data breaches, and we're going to start with a data broker who has left 600,000 plus sensitive files exposed online, which includes people's criminal histories, background checks, vehicle and property records, and they were exposed in a non-password protected database belonging to data brokerage SL Data Services, according to the researcher who found this. In addition to not being password protected, none of the information was encrypted. In total, the bucket contained over 600,000 PDF files in a 713 gigabyte archive. They don't know how long it was accessible, but they said they found the Amazon S3 bucket in October and reported it to the data collection company by phone and email every few days for more than 2 weeks. Even when I would make phone calls to the multiple numbers on different websites and tell them there was a data incident, they would tell me they use 128-bit encryption and use SSL certificates. There were many eye rolls, he claimed. They said 95% of the documents were labeled background checks, which contained full names, home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, employment, family members, social media accounts, and criminal record history belonging to thousands of people. In at least one of these documents, it indicated someone who had done sexual misconduct, which included case details, fines, dates, and additional charges. While the open database that he said belonged to the SL Data Services, the folders inside were named with separate website domains, adding that the firm appears to operate at least 16 different websites that provide a range of different data.
All right, so this next data breach is really quick. Bologna, I don't know how to pronounce that, to be honest with you. The football club has confirmed a data breach after Ransom Hub ransomware attack. So the gang claims that the leaked data includes sponsorship contracts and details, complete financial data of the club's history, personal and confidential player data, transfer strategies for new and young players, confidential data of fans and employees, data on young athletes, medical records, information on structures and stadiums, commercial strategies, and business plans.
BT Group is the UK's leading fixed and mobile telecom provider, and they took servers offline after Black Basta ransomware breach. This comes after the ransomware gang claimed they breached the company's servers and stole 500 gigabytes of data, including financial and organizational data, users' data, and personal documents. There were also NDA documents, confidential information, and much more. The cybercrime group also published folder listings and multiple screenshots of documents requested by the company during the hiring process as proof of their claims. And that is, I believe, all we have on this so far. So there'll probably be an update, so stay subscribed for next week's episode.
All right, this is an ongoing story. Ransomware attackers are targeting NHS hospitals with a new wave of cyber attacks. This is the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, for those who don't know, and this compromised multiple hospitals, exposing sensitive patient data and disrupting emergency services. This is Inc. Ransom, who is a prolific Russia-linked ransomware group that claimed responsibility for an attack on NHS Scotland earlier this year, and now they claim they have breached the Alder Hey Children's Hospital Trust, which is one of Europe's largest children's hospitals. In a post on their dark website, Inc. Ransom claims to have stolen patient records, donor reports, and procurement data between 2018 and 2024. Samples of the allegedly stolen data include records containing sensitive health information on patients, along with personally identifiable information such as dates of birth and addresses.
There's also been a data leak that exposed millions of top corporations' employee records, and this is from a cybercriminal known as Labs?
Nameless.
Clever. Nameless. There's 2 threes. The 2 E's are threes. Which expose sensitive employee information from these companies. The leaked database stemming from a previous ransomware attack exploiting the MoveIt vulnerability. So this is still MoveIt stuff that we're covering now. Includes millions of records detailing corporate hierarchies, personal data, and internal identifiers. There's a summary of the most significant breaches that you can find in the sources, which ranges from 12 million down to 5,000 records, depending on the banks and the people impacted, and includes people like Xerox and Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and whatnot. And they contain things like names, email addresses, phone numbers, cost center codes, department details, and job titles. In some cases, the records reveal highly detailed organizational structures, which could enable phishing attacks, corporate espionage, or identity theft. All records are available to registered forum members for 8 credits, which corresponds to a small amount in cryptocurrency.
That will take us into the company news, and we're going to start off with some Google news. So first up, Google's iOS app now injects links on third-party websites that go back to search. So recently, Google announced a new page annotations within the Google app on iOS. This feature, as Google explains, this is a quote, extracts interesting entities from the web page and highlights them in line. Effectively, it creates links on a website that you've opened through Google's browser that the website owner did not put there. The links, when clicked, then perform a search on Google for that subject and open the search in a pop-up window on top of the third-party website. So if I'm reading this correctly, it basically scans the website, it looks for anything that you might want to search, and turns it into a search link, even if it wasn't actually a search link on the website. The feature, Google says, will offer an opt-out for website owners through a form. It's pointed out by SE Roundtable that opting out can take up to 30 days while the feature is live now. Google introduced a new AdSense ad format earlier this year that works similarly, turning text on the web page into an ad that opens in Google search.
On a somewhat positive note, Google Play Store could warn you if an app seems to be of low quality, and the store could specifically warn you if an app has been frequently uninstalled and has limited user data or few active users. Once this update goes live, as we assume it will, even though it's pre-release, users would be well advised to only install a flagged low-quality app with extreme caution. Unless you know its provenance and have a real need, avoid it. Between these new changes and the wider crackdown on sideloading from both Google and Samsung, Android's leading OEM, the gap is definitely narrowing to iPhone. That said, there still needs to be serious work to be done.
Google will track your location for 180 days and then it stops. We covered this actually. In December last year, Google confirmed that it would finally stop storing and harvesting all the user location data in the cloud and would instead limit it to on-device only, the same way other cloud device sync private data is treated. The article goes on to say there is no specific date for a universal change. Instead, users will receive an email explaining the change to their accounts. Google has clarified this update is rolling out gradually. People will see different deletion deadlines approximately 6 months from when they were first notified about this change to their account. The author says when you get your 180-day countdown email, open Google Maps on your primary smartphone. From there, you can set your new timeline preferences. That will enable Google to delete its cloud data store while you maintain the extent of timeline data you want securely in your device. Google assures that if you're getting a new phone or worried about losing your existing one, you can back up your data to the cloud so it doesn't get lost. We will automatically encrypt your backed up data so that no one can read it, including Google. I just thought this was interesting. They kind of threw this in at the end, and I thought it was worth sharing. One of the less well-known features likely to be released with iOS 18.2 this month on Apple is the option to remove location data before sharing photos, a long overdue fix. The author goes on to say, while you should wait for the email from Google, my advice would be to make the changes now. Enter your timeline in Google Maps, set it up the way that's right for you, and then Google can safely delete that central data store, and your sensitive location information will be more secure.
All right, so this is from Threads, the Bluesky competitor. Threads users can now follow profiles from other Fediverse servers. So starting today, users who have turned on sharing to the Fediverse are able to follow people from other Fediverse servers who have liked, followed, or replied to federated profiles on Threads. When scrolling through Threads, users can now go to someone's profile and see all their posts on other servers. They can also be notified on Threads when that person posts on their server. So it's a good step forward to Threads being federated.
A $1 phone scanner finds 7 Pegasus spyware infections. This comes from a service that I believe we both talked about, which is iVerify. On Tuesday, they published findings from a spyware detection feature they launched earlier this year. Out of 2,500 device scans that customers submitted, 7 revealed infections by the notorious NSO group malware known as Pegasus. Even the light version of the app, which is available to everyone for $1, it has a feature called mobile threat hunting, which uses a combination of malware signature-based detection, heuristics, and machine learning to look for anomalies in iOS and Android devices or telltale signs of spyware infection. For paying customers, the tool regularly checks the device, but if you have the $1 version, you get to do this check once a month for free. So users can walk through the steps to generate and send a special diagnostic utility file to iVerify and receive analysis within hours. iVerify's infrastructure is built to be privacy preserving, but to run mobile threat hunting feature, users must enter an email address so the company has a way to contact them if a scan turns up spyware, as it did in the 7 recent Pegasus discoveries. The article points out, it says 7 out of 2,500 may sound like a small group, especially in the somewhat self-selecting customer base of iVerify users, but the fact that the tool has already found a handful of infections at all speaks to how widely the use of the spyware has proliferated around the world. Having an easy tool for diagnosing spyware compromises may well expand the picture of just how often such malware is being used. So,
Riot Games is cracking down on players' off-platform conduct. So this rule gives Riot Games the right to issue game penalties when hateful content is brought to their attention. But this clause says they won't proactively search for social media for violations. Instead, players can report cases about an offending player's conduct on a live stream in which one of its games serves as the background of the content produced. If Riot determines that the player violated its TOS, Riot could issue a penalty as if that behavior occurred in-game. The new TOS rules also focus on stream sniping, in which streamers and players hijack or interrupt another stream's online sessions, and the penalty system for these infractions are still in the early testing phases. Repeat offenders of these could result in complete bans from all Riot Games accounts, and the new TOS states that Riot can issue multiple penalties and bans for streamers and players who commit any bad violation or problematic behavior.
we have some good news to end on the company section for. Some companies are going out of business after getting hit with cyber attacks. I'm happy about this because I'm hoping maybe if this keeps happening, companies will actually care about cybersecurity, because now it's going from, we had an oopsies anyways, moving on to, this could literally ruin us. First up, we have vodka maker Stoli, who has filed for bankruptcy in the US after a ransomware attack. To be fair, this one's a little multi-layered, but they have filed for bankruptcy following an August ransomware attack and Russian authorities seizing the company's remaining distilleries in Russia. And I'll talk about that in a second. The cyber attack forced manual operations across the group, affecting key processes such as accounting, with full recovery not expected until early 2025. They added that the incident also prevented the U.S. subsidiaries from providing financial reports to lenders who claimed that the two companies had defaulted on a $78 million debt. This is a summary, but the article notes that Stoli was also very active in donating to humanitarian efforts in Ukraine, and that all of their Russian assets were seized by Russia because the company were labeled, quote, extremists. And then our other one is National Public Data has shut down. This actually came from the Techlore forum, so I'm going to quote that user. The data broker that leaked its data, mostly on Americans and decades of data on each of us, has closed down after their bankruptcy case a few months back. And if you click on the website, it contains an announcement that says, "It is with sincere regret that we inform you that National Public Data, after 2 decades serving the data industry, has closed. To learn more, please view the security incident below, or optionally by calling the hotline at 1-800-WHO-CARES."
We only have one research story this week, and researchers have discovered their first UEFI bootkit malware for Linux, and it's nicknamed Bootkitty. It's a proof of concept that works only on some Ubuntu versions and configurations rather than a fully fledged threat deployed in actual attacks. So this is from ESET, and they discovered this when they examined a suspicious file called bootkit.efi uploaded to VirusTotal in November 2024. They confirmed it's the first case of a Linux UEFI bootkit to bypass kernel signature verification and preload malicious components during the system boot process. It relies on a self-signed certificate, so it won't execute on systems with secure boot enabled, and it only targets certain Ubuntu distributions. Hard-coded offsets and simplistic byte pattern matching make it only usable on specific grub and kernel versions, so it's unsuitable for widespread deployment. Indicators of compromise associated with Bootkitty have been shared on the GitHub repo, and if you want to learn more about this, definitely check it out in the sources.
I forgot to include it in the show notes here, but there were some additional updates to this story. But I think it was basically they found a way that this could be exploited using the logo fail vulnerability that happened like a year ago. I don't know if that makes it more dangerous or if it was just like an interesting observation. That'll take us into politics, and we have quite a hodgepodge of stories this week. We're going to start in Australia, who has passed a social media ban for children under 16. The law forces tech giants from Instagram and Facebook owner Meta and TikTok to stop minors logging in or face fines of up to 49.5 million Australian dollars, which is 32 million US dollars. A trial of methods to enforce it will start in January, with the ban to take effect in a year. A last-minute change to the bill specified that platforms must offer an alternative to making users upload identification documents.
All right, the FTC has banned 2 data brokers from collecting and selling American sensitive location data, and this is to prohibit Virginia-based Gravy Analytics and Georgia-based Mobilewalla from collecting and retaining it, which what they do is they take your sensitive data. Normally, this is from just regular apps you download. A lot of people download apps and they have third-party SDKs in those apps that some of the developers don't even know are in their apps. They're just kind of grouped up in the development process. And what happens is people download these apps, they grant their location to something like a free weather app, and then it ends up in Gravy Analytics or Mobilewalla, and they share this with governments. They sell it to pretty much anybody who wants sensitive location data. Just some context here for people who don't know about this kind of industry. This agreement was reached after the FTC accused the 2 data brokers of selling millions of location data points, including where people visited clinics and places of worship. Under the 2 settlements announced on Monday, they will no longer collect sensitive location data on consumers and must delete the historic data they have collected. Both organizations will also have to maintain a sensitive location data program, whereby they must develop a list of sensitive locations and prevent the use, sale, license, transfer, sharing, or disclosure of consumers' visits to those locations. These locations include medical facilities, religious organizations, schools, and correctional facilities.
These next 2 stories are very closely related. The first one is that US officials have urged Americans to use encrypted apps amid unprecedented cyber attack. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch these. So first off, the White House has said that Salt Typhoon has hacked telcos in dozens of countries. So for those of you who are just joining us, Salt Typhoon is the name that we have given to a hacker group that we are pretty certain is China, like the government of China. And they exploited a perfectly legitimate backdoor in America's telephonic infrastructure, 8 telecom firms in the US, AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen Technologies. They infiltrated this backdoor that was put there so that law enforcement could request data when they needed it. And for months now, maybe even years, I think, they have basically had a copy of every SMS message, every attachment, every phone call, everything that went over the network. And they're still there. And the government has no idea when or how they're going to kick them out. Let me go ahead and read the article. During a Wednesday press briefing, the White House official told reporters that these breaches included a total of 8 telecom firms in the US, with only 4 previously known. While these attacks have been underway for likely 1 to 2 years, this is a quote, "At this time, we don't believe any classified communications have been compromised. We cannot say with certainty that the adversary has been evicted because we still don't know the scope of what they're doing. We're still trying to understand that along with those partners." And that was according to a senior CISA official. So the follow-up story says U.S. officials urge Americans to use encrypted apps amid unprecedented cyber attack. And it says amid this unprecedented cyber attack, U.S. officials have recommended that Americans use encrypted messaging apps to ensure their communications stay hidden from foreign hackers. The hacking campaign named Salt Typhoon by Microsoft is one of the largest intelligence compromises in U.S. history. Our suggestion, what we have told folks internally, is not new here. Encryption is your friend, whether it's on text messages or if you have the capacity to use encrypted voice communication. Even if the adversary is able to intercept the data, if it is encrypted, it will make it impossible.
IVPN acquired Safing, who's the operator of Portmaster and the SPN network. IVPN said, "We believe a trustworthy VPN service is just one part of the essential toolkit for resisting online surveillance. Complementary tools like application firewalls help you achieve greater control over your network." And after considering the development of a new application from scratch, they determined that Portmaster, with its maturity and reliability, stands as the best service currently on the market. And so they've pretty much bought them out, and both parties agreed that an acquisition was the logical next step. So IVPN will now bring no unexpected changes. Portmaster and SPN will remain open source, and they're just committed to maintaining and improving the software and services that people rely on. They have no plans to change the business model, pricing, or policies in a way that would present a disadvantage. While Raphael and Daniel will not be joining the IVPN team, they will take on an advisory role and plan to stay connected with the community through Discord and may occasionally contribute to Portmaster's development.
The first router designed specifically for OpenWRT has been released. So this comes from the, what is SFC? The Software Freedom Conservatory or something like that. They're kind of like the Free Software Foundation, I think. I think they might actually be related, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me. So at the SFC, along with our OpenWRT member project, we announced the production release of the OpenWRT1. This is the first wireless internet router designed and built with your software freedom and right to repair in mind. The One will never be locked down and is forever unbrickable. The One exuberantly follows the requirements of the copyleft licenses of Linux and other GPL programs. The device provides fully copyleft compliant source code released from the start. Owners will have all the rights as intended on day one. Owners are encouraged to take full advantage of these rights to improve and repair the software on their OpenWRT1. The price starts at $89 for a complete one with a case, or $68.42 for a caseless logic board, and is ready for a wide variety of use cases. There's a whole list of specifications in the article. I'm not going to read them here because it's probably gibberish for most people. This new product has completed full FCC compliance tests. It's confirmed that OpenWRT met all of the requirements. We do expect that for orders placed today, sellers will deliver by December 22nd in most countries, regardless of where you go to buy from. For every purchase of an OpenWRT1, a donation of $10 USD will go to the OpenWRT earmarked fund at the Software Freedom Conservancy.
This next story is from SimpleX. They have servers operated by Flux now for what they say is true privacy and decentralization for all users. Their open source code that they are legally bound to use doesn't provide any metadata that could be used to learn who connects to whom, but the privacy of users' connections still depend on us honoring our promises and privacy policies, and Flux servers in the app are going to improve this. So before this version, the app was choosing servers randomly. Now with both SimpleX Chat and Flux servers being enabled, it will always choose servers of different operators in each connection to receive messages and for private message routing, increasing metadata privacy for all users. These are configured as opt-in, and the privacy policy and conditions of use that apply to Flux servers are the same as for SimpleX Chat servers to make it simple for the users. To improve connection privacy by using Flux servers, all you have to do is enable Flux once the app offers it, or later via network and server settings, and accept that the same conditions apply. By default, if both servers are enabled, which is Flux and SimpleX servers, you will be using SimpleX Chat servers to receive messages. So Flux servers to forward messages to SimpleX Chat servers, and the servers of both to forward messages to unknown servers. We will enable Flux to receive messages by default a bit later, or you can change it now via settings, and any additional servers you add to app configurations are treated as belonging to another operator, so they will also be used to improve connection privacy together with pre-configured servers unless you disable them.
Mozilla Firefox 133 is now available for download. Here's what's new. Here's a summary. It includes the ability to show tabs from other devices in the tab overview menu, GPU accelerated Canvas 2D enabled by default for Windows users, a new anti-tracking feature enabled in enhanced tracking protection strict mode. So that's what I'm going to focus on here. This protection detects bounce trackers based on a redirect behavior and periodically purges their cookies and site data to prevent tracking. Basically, sometimes, I think we've explained this before, if you click on website A and you're trying to go to website B, sometimes that link will take you to website C first and then to website B. And that's a way of like gathering analytics, knowing who clicked the link, getting information about you and your device. It's a privacy risk. Firefox 133 also brings two interesting changes for Android users, namely the enablement of desktop mode browsing by default for large devices, I'm assuming they mean like tablets, and the ability to handle text copied to the clipboard as sensitive content while browsing the web in private browsing mode. One thing I forgot to throw in the show notes that I might go ahead and add, just to give you guys a heads up, Mozilla's rebranding. They put out a lovely ad piece, blog post, all about it and the agency they worked with for some reason.
Really quick here, we don't need to go super high into it, but Cryptomator has a 33% discount in December on mobile apps. That also comes with a supporter certificate. So For those who don't know, Cryptomator allows you to encrypt your files locally before they go to any other cloud provider. So you could use like Google Drive with end-to-end encryption using Cryptomator. Really quick, Nextcloud has a new update. They pretty much have their own new competitor now to things like Google Meet and Zoom, and it's all like done on your end, and it's they prioritize digital sovereignty and you hosting your own stuff. So we'll also go ahead and leave in the source as a quick update to Nextcloud and those of you who use Nextcloud and self-host Nextcloud.
As the resident Nextcloud user here, I'll say I took kind of a look at least the announcement they sent, and it seems to me like basically they've just leveled up Nextcloud Talk, and they've added some new features to compete with Microsoft Teams. And the last thing, this is more of a signal boost than anything, says Tor in Russia, a call for more web tunnel bridges. This comes from the Tor project. Recent reports from Tor users in Russia indicate an escalation in online censorship with the goal of blocking access to Tor and other circumvention tools. This new wave includes attempts to block Tor bridges and pluggable transports developed by the Tor project, removal of circumvention apps from stores, and targeting popular hosting providers, shrinking the space for bypassing censorship. Despite these ongoing actions, Tor remains effective. One alarming trend is the targeted blocking of popular hosting providers by I know we've said this name before. Roskomnadzor? I don't know. Russia's like censorship agency, basically. As many circumvention tools are using them, this action made some Tor bridges inaccessible to many users in Russia. I'm just going to call him Roscoe. As Roscoe and internet service providers in Russia are increasing their blocking efforts, the need for more web tunnel bridges has become urgent. Web tunnel, for those who have not heard of it, is a new type of bridge that is particularly effective at flying under a sensor's radar. Its design blends itself into other web traffic, allowing a user to hide in plain sight. This makes web tunnel safe for general users because it helps conceal the fact that a tool like Tor is being used. I don't think they went into deep detail, but I think they did give more detail in the blog post, if I remember correctly. So we are calling on the Tor community and the internet freedom community to help us scale up web tunnel bridges. If you've ever thought about running a Tor bridge, now is the time. Our goal is to deploy 200 new web tunnel bridges by the end of this December 2024 to open secure access for users in Russia. There are instructions in the article.
All right, Misfits. Blue Yonder ransomware attack disrupts a grocery store supply chain. So they're warning that this ransomware attack caused significant disruption to its services, with the outages impacting grocery stores throughout the UK. They operate as a Panasonic subsidiary with an annual revenue of over $1 billion USD and 6,000 employees. The company offers AI-driven supply chain solutions to retailers, manufacturers, and logistics providers, encompassing demand forecasting, inventory optimization, and transportation management. Among its 3,000 customers are high-profile orgs like DHL, Renault, Morrisons, Nestle, 3M, Tesco, Starbucks, Ace, and many more like 7-Eleven.
Our next story, Firefox and Windows 0 days exploited by Russian Romcom hackers. Russian-based Romcom cybercrime group chained 2 zero-day vulnerabilities in recent attacks on Firefox and Tor browser users across Europe and North America. They abused the 2 vulnerabilities as a zero-day chain exploit, which helped them gain remote code execution without requiring user interaction. Their targets only had to visit an attacker-controlled and maliciously crafted website that downloaded and executed the backdoor on their systems. Romcom has been linked to financially motivated campaigns and orchestrated ransomware and extortion attacks alongside credential theft, likely aimed at supporting intelligence operations.
When you upload or when you take photos and videos on an iPhone, you might have noticed that there's kind of a pretty universal naming scheme for these. So in the case of the iPhone, it's image XXXX. So pretty much what somebody did is they set up a script to go through YouTube, because what YouTube at least used to do, I don't know if they still do this, but when you upload something from your photo library on YouTube, it just makes that the name of the video. So there's pretty much a ton of YouTube videos that just have the title image XXXX. So somebody wrote a script to pretty much scrape all these videos from YouTube. And it was just kind of a fun project that this guy named Riley Walls did. And they kind of just got to compile them and see all these old videos that no one's seen. Some of them just had like a few views.
The privacy angle here is based on the context of the way this article was worded and what he did to scrape them. I'm assuming that if you set your videos to private, then they won't show up in this. And on to our last story this week. Solana Web3.js library backdoored to steal secret and private keys. So there's a legitimate Solana JavaScript SDK that was temporarily compromised in a supply chain attack, with the library backdoored with malicious code to steal cryptocurrency, private keys, and drain wallets. Solana is warning developers who suspect they were compromised to immediately upgrade to the latest version 1.95.8 release and to rotate any keys, including multisigs, program authorities, and server key pairs. SolScan shows that the estimated value of the the stolen cryptocurrency was about $184,000 at the time of this writing. For anyone whose wallets were compromised in the supply chain attack, you should immediately transfer any remaining funds to a new wallet and discontinue the use of the old one, as the private keys should now be considered compromised. And that was all our stories for the last couple of weeks. We took a week off there for the holidays. Hopefully y'all had a good Thanksgiving or Thursday or whatever it was for you guys, whether you celebrate or not. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Hopefully you had some good food, again, whether you celebrate or not. And we're happy to be back. So Bluesky is allowing people to scrape your data for AI. Be sure to keep that in mind whenever you post, not just Bluesky, but anywhere. IVPN has bought out safing, and we're optimistic about this, and we're hoping for good things to come in the future. The FBI now likes end-to-end encryption, apparently, because it's okay when they're spying on your stuff. It's not okay when the other people are spying on your stuff. We don't think it's okay when anybody's spying on your stuff, regardless of which government. So make sure you are using encrypted messengers, preferably, trusted ones, Signal, Session, SimpleX, Briar, etc. And many, many, many more stories. So make sure you're subscribed to get all those updates. And now here's Henry with the sponsor pitch.
Last time I shared that I signed up for easy opt-outs. Since then, I got my official notice from them that they opted me out of everything except, and they make this really clear, they don't opt out Intellius and another one. It's just really frustrating because I've been using a data removal service for a long time and I was never informed of this. So I think this was a huge win for me when I was using easy opt-outs, that they let me know that there's a really obvious thing that I had to manually opt out of, which was really cool to see. And I went through the process. It was super easy to do. And it just gave me that much more faith in easy opt-outs. Like, they genuinely seem to be like as thorough as they can possibly be with everything they do, which has just been super awesome to see. Also, the cost is insane, $20 a year. And a lot of them kind of get near that price per month, just to give you some context on the rates of these services. So I'm really impressed with the rates. Again, like Nate said at the beginning, it's super effective per Consumer Reports. So it's been researched, there's third-party testing, and the only services that are somewhat comparable are Optory, which is an insane cost. I really just have nothing but great things to say. I just listed them on the Techlore side of things officially because there really is no better service I can recommend right now. People might have noticed that we unlisted all services on our ends over there, and it's because we didn't really have a good recommendation until we kind of researched things more. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that I've been having a great experience so far, and they seem like some of the most ethical, if not the most ethical company in the space. And I'm just really lucky that they're sponsoring our podcast. So thank you to Easy Opt-outs. And they also have business plans. Cancellation is easy. And like Nate said, they have a lot of really cool features that you can rewind to learn about. So I'm happy to be one of the customers.
And that is all we have this week. So thank you guys again for listening. Links to all the stories can be found in the show notes if you want to follow up on any of them individually. If you have a story that you think we should cover, please send it to news@surveillancereport.tech. The final thing we want to ask of you is to please share the podcast around. We do not do any kind of marketing or advertising, so it's entirely word of mouth. And, sometimes we get lucky and game the YouTube algorithm, but it's really about you guys spreading it around, sharing it with your friends and family. Make sure you're subscribed to get any updates in the future. Hopefully we'll have more crappy data companies going out of business. And give us a rating if you're listening on a platform where that's an option. That helps people find the podcast. That helps us spread the message of privacy, which is really what we're trying to do. So thank you for everything you do to help with that. And we will see you next week.